Hello class. In this short video, I will talk about PA0 a little bit as we don't have a discussion section dedicated to PA0. On Thursday's discussion for this week 1, we'll talk about both PA0 and PA1, but PA0 is still on Thursday evening. So you shouldn't wait until the discussion section on Thursday before you start PA0. PA0 includes two major parts. The first part is the setup. So you should know your CS8B SP19 account, as well as some of the terminologies, some of the things we learned in CSE 8A is more like a review. And also we have a coding challenge. This coding question is by no means easy. So if you find yourself struggle a little bit with this method, it's okay, it's normal. Okay, that's why we are making this video to help folks to understand what you are supposed to do and give you more hints. The write-up is fairly clear with what this method does, and it does offer some hints, but I want to address it again in this video. Both the instructors of CSE AB, both sections, we'll talk about it in the lecture on Tuesday, but we don't have a lot of time to talk about the things in detail. Okay, so I think the setup part is fairly straightforward. I will just look at the coding part. For this coding question, we want to find, we call it even instance finder. What we want to do is, if there is a string, we want to return a char array, and inside this char array, it gives the most frequent character. When I say character, it means letters, either lowercase or uppercase. It returns the most frequent letter at the right location in the starter. And how do we define the frequency? Frequency, in general, we say how many times something occurs. We define occurrence or instance of a certain letter as if that letter is followed by an even count of numerical characters, that is between 0 and 9. Then we say there is an instance of that letter. So what does this mean? Let me give you a couple of examples. So the first thing is, if the parameter value is AAABB, so what should this method return? It should return that. How do I know it? Well, given the original string, you basically count how many times A occurred, how many times B occurred. But A didn't occur 3 times. B doesn't occur twice, as normally you will see. You have to kind of determine whether this letter A constitutes an instance of this letter. So you basically look at this A, how many digits occurred after A. So how many kind of digit characters? Basically, digit characters 0, 1, all the way to 9. Right? So how many of those characters have occurred after the first A? Well, there's none. So basically, the count of digits after A is 0. 0 is an even number, so this A checks out. Similarly, for this A, the number of digit characters after the second A is also 0. So this A also contributes to the instance count of character A. Similarly for this A. So all 3 of them are good. Basically, A occurred 3 times. And all those 3 A characters contributed to it. For B, for this B, there's no digit after B. So this B has a count of, has 0 count for digits after it. So it contributes, so is this last B. So B occurred twice, and both B's contributed to the frequency. So if you look at A occurred 3 times, B occurred twice, so you should return A. And you basically return all those positions in an array where those instance counts happened. So basically you have A, and then for all the other non most frequent characters, you basically put in star, which is a character by itself. So this is why it returns AAA star star. Another example, if you have this one as the argument for the parameter, and this is the return array. So how does that work? Let me write it down. PA4 for A3C. Okay. So you basically count how many times each of the letters have occurred. Well, you want to count A. Well, did the first A contribute to the count of A? You count how many digits are after A. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the count of number of digits after A is 6. 6 is an even number, so this A checks out. How about this A? It is basically 4, 4, 3. It has a 3. So this A didn't contribute to the count of A. Neither is this A, because the number of digits after A is only 1. It's not an even number. So A occurred once. It is contributed by this first A. Okay. How about for B? We only care about letters. We don't care about digits. We don't care about any other symbols. So if you look at this B, the number of digits after this B is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No good. How about for this B? 1, 2, 3, 4. This one is good. It's an even number. How about for that B? 1, 2, 3. No good. So B also occurred once. It is basically this B gives the count for that one. How about C? Well, C is over here. The number of digits after C is 0, which is an even number. So C also occurred once. And what should I return? You should return the most frequent character because there is a tie. You return all of them. So A, the first A is there because it contributes to the count. Then you have a 3, it's not a character. Then you have a B. Well, because this B didn't contribute to the one count of B, it is treated as a star. And you have a 2, which is another star. And then you have this B that contributes to the count of B. And then 4, which changes into a star. The next B changed into a star, it didn't contribute to the count. The next A changed into a star, didn't contribute. 4, 4. And then the next is A, which is a star. 3 is a star, but the last one is a C. That's why it returns 7. Let's see, make sure there's no error. Good. So this is why it returns that array. So it returns a char array. Now, how should I do this? But basically, I mean, for humans, you get the idea. But how do I train a computer to do this? Well, there are a few steps, right? Number one is you need to figure out how many times did each of the characters occur. We only care about alphabets, which is either small letter A to Z, and also capital letter A to Z, capital Z. Okay, we only care about those characters. So how should I keep track of their count? The way you can do it is you can basically create a lot of variables for it, but there is a shortcut. So let me kind of tell you how to do it. Okay. The idea that I'm sharing here is not unique. You don't necessarily have to follow this. There are other ways to do it. They can be slightly more complicated. Okay. So the first thing is you need to have multiple arrays to keep track of things. The first array that you will need is how many times a character occurred in the starter string based on the constraint that we have put into for the instance count. Right? So the suggested idea is you create an array of size 128. Okay? What this really does is, the reason why it's 128 is if you look at the ASCII table, there are about 128 characters that you can possibly type in on the keyboard. And the alphabets A to Z, capital A to Z, they are part of those 128 different symbols. And you can use these charts as indexes into the array. So for example, if I want to say, okay, I found an A, that a small character A that gives me the instance for letter A, then you can just do something like this. So if I say int array x equals to new int 128, you say xa plus plus. This will basically increase the count for character A. Okay. Similarly, if you found out, okay, there is a letter C that give me a thing, so that give me a count, you can just say something like that in your statement. Obviously, you won't use those constants. You'll use a variable as you go through this stutter. Right, so you use some sort of looping structure to go through each of the characters in the stutter, and if you find out that character gives you the right instance, so there are even number of digits after it, then you want to increment the count for that character by 1, and that's what you need to do. You use that character as the index into this array. So this is the first thing. This will solve your problem to say, how do I keep track of how many times a character has occurred in the starter string? The other things, like in our second example, not all A's occur in the final return array. Right? Only the first one occurs in the final array. The second and third one, because they didn't contribute to the count, they are returned as star. So how should I keep track of this thing? You should create another array that will help you. And so you basically create an array to keep track. Did this character contribute to the count for that instance? If it did, you basically change its value in the array to say, well, when I construct the final return value, I would basically return that character, like something like that. If it didn't, then you should not change that array's value, and you will see you will go through this array when you construct the return value. So you will basically put a star in there instead of that original character. To give you one example, if my value is this, right? If this is my starter, as I'm keeping track of the count, I also have an array that will tell me, okay, let me see. This A contribute to the count, so I may have a 1 in there. This A didn't, I have a 0 in there. This A didn't, I have a 0 for that A. Neither of the B's contributed, but those are just digits. So only this thing will appear in the final return array. So in the end, I'll go through this array, and I'll say, okay, if it is 0, it's going to be a star. If this is 0, it's going to be a star. Oh, okay. So this is 1. I'll have the original character in there. Another star, another star. So this will be easy, right? So you'll need at least probably 2 arrays to keep track of stuff. And this exercise is for you to play with arrays and strings a little bit, okay? Because we know you have learned arrays, you have learned strings. This exercise is for you to play with them in a little bit more depth than the methods that you probably have written in CSE 8A. Okay, I think this is the end of the video. If you have more questions, we do have tutor hours available now in the lab. Go there, ask for help, and also PA0, and also I think both of the faculty have their office hours this week too. So make the best use of those help if you need help. Okay. All right.